Excellent. So we'd like to begin our board meeting. We have a few of our trustees online. It's great that they're able to join us. And just like to start by acknowledging that we are on the gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains, and pay respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land.
Lethbridge is also
Lethbridge is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3.
Oki and welcome.
Oki and welcome.
Trustee
Trustee Andrea Anderchuk does send her regrets,
and
our thoughts are with her and her family during this time. So moving on to approval of the agenda, I do at least one amendment to remove 10.1.1.
Is there any
Is there any other amendments or changes? Seeing none, we can get approval for the agenda as amended. Christine, if we can go to the Kristen, can you go to the screen so I can see everybody, please? Thanks. And those in favor? And that's carried. And next is approval of the minutes. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, if I can have approval of those. And Jenny is approving those. And all in favor? And that's carried. Moving on to, there's no business arising from the minutes. So next we'll get right into our associate superintendent reports. And our first one is business and operations. Christine.
Great, thank you very much. As always, it's always exciting to tell you about all the neat things going on in business and operations. So first we'll talk about facilities. Facilities has always got lots going on. Gary Station is in the hands of Alberta Infrastructure, and it is, I believe they're doing a proposal call soon for the design, the final design and construction architects and construction company that will take it on. And so I think that's coming out soon. But you can see we've got renderings of the outside of the school, and those are on our community engagement website. You can see various aspects of the outside of the school. We're pretty excited with how it looks. We are getting interior renderings done, and those should be done soon, so we can get an idea of what we're conceptually have for Gary Station. Last week, Daniel Heaton, Director of Facility Services, and myself had the opportunity to take our capital planning South manager around from Alberta Education for a tour of some of our facilities. We took him, of course, to Galbraith, our #1 modernization project. We took him to Coalbanks Elementary to show how crowded Coalbanks is and how we're using the big gathering space for music room, and that there is no space because we have requested 4 more modular classrooms for that school because of growth. It's currently sitting at about 108% utilization. We're still waiting for the 1 classroom and washroom unit from the 21-22 modular capital program modular classroom program that has been promised to us. The site's prepped. We've got T numbers, which means the units have a designated number for going on the line, but we have not heard when they're coming yet. They were supposed to come in September, but they weren't ready. So hopefully soon, but we've ordered another 4. So, and at that point, there won't be very much room left to put any more modulars on that school. So we are getting rather crowded there. And then recycling and organics program. Back in September, I had a meeting with the city of Lethbridge, and they were informing me of a new bylaw that's coming in for January 1st that will require a mandatory recycling and organics in the city of Lethbridge. And that means also commercial enterprises. And so in preparation for that, we are going to have we've struck a committee in the school division. That includes administrators, we have some teachers, our caretakers, we have a student on that committee, and we're going to, and of course facilities is on that committee. And we're going to study what do we need to have ready and in place. What does it look like? What does it look like from students and staff and how they support the program? And so we'll be embarking on that. We have until September 2023 to be compliant. And so we'll be working toward that as a date and deadline. Very complicated because we've determined what kind of bins we need for classrooms because it has to be as convenient as waste is now. So there's going to be some cost with this. We did have a conversation at our city school council meeting about this and the pressure this puts on school boards at this late date for finding that kind of money. So until we know exactly what we're going to need and how much it is, you probably won't hear any more from me about it until I need to come for an ask of how we're going to fund this for our school division. And so we're going to, the right thing to do and in this day and age is to be environmentally conscious. We have a lot of schools already doing some recycling. This is just going to be more a uniform program, and also the organics piece, which is its own complications. But again, the right thing to do. We're going to be doing it at home. So and then Blitz, it's a building blitz. The maintenance department had their first building blitz days at LCI this last week, where we had our full grounds and our trades and everybody at LCI, some of our contractors and the caretakers taking care of a whole pile of work tickets. They were doing some preventative maintenance and along the way doing some safety items. And so they got a lot of work done, and it was a great kind of team experience and very, very successful being able to coordinate together and get just a whole pile of work done at one building. And so we'll probably do a few more of those in the future because it was very, very productive. And we go to finance. Well, we're pretty excited. Always excited at this time of year. We've got the ASBO Meritorious Budget Award for the 18th year. This was Avis's first year, so extra special because it's her first year getting it, and 18 years for the school division. So we were pretty excited. Our auditors were on site this last week doing their audit work, and it went really well. So we're quite pleased with that. So that's done. I'm not going to talk much about safety. Technology. Well, I have to tell you, I am so proud of our technology team because they go above and beyond. In September, one of the things that we worry about the most is making sure we have all our kids registered, all our kids having proper codes, all our kids in our student information system flowing up into what they call PASI, which is the student information system, then flows into our funding event system for funding. And sometimes they don't talk well with each other. And so we had some challenges, but they put in a lot of extra time and due diligence. They had the support of instructional services as well, and to making sure that we were accounting for every student for September 30th. So I'm very pleased with that. It's Cyber Awareness Month, and so we always like to remind people to be mindful on what you're clicking on and what kind of information you're giving out to strangers. We used to worry about strangers and that you meet on the street, but now we have to worry about strangers online and people trying to get your information. So it's Cyber Awareness Month, and our technology team has been working really hard to make sure that our systems are up to date, have done that risk assessment to make sure that we are strengthening our systems. And they did 4 days of training with a cybersecurity expert to help detect threats and to fix them as they went through. So very good training and work on our systems. And our technology team has got a lot of talent behind them, and so they share that talent. And you can see in the report that we had Dave Harmon and Jesse Sadlowski presenting about our 3D printing that we do in the school division and helping other school divisions with implementing that in their schools. John Tai, our LCI teacher, and Koji Nakagama, of course, presented on how to create a space for esports tournaments and how to get that going in your school division. And apparently that particular session was over full, and a lot of people kept coming in, and they actually had more participants than they had in rooms. So a lot of school divisions excited about learning about our esports venture. And then also Jesse presented on Azure and how to get that started in your school using Azure as a cloud server software in your division. So it's nice that our team also is sharing their talents with others in the province. Transportation, just transportation is running really well this year with just, as always, there's always a few little hiccups, but wanted to let you know we do bus evacuation drills for our kids so that they learn how to evacuate the bus in the case of an emergency. That's very important, just like we do lockdown and fire drills. And wanted to highlight the benefits of our relationship with Holy Spirit in busing. We have 63 yellow buses that run every day. This doesn't include our complex learning needs, but of those 63 buses, 23 of those buses transport in a day both our students and Holy Spirit students. So that means that we're sharing in the costs of those buses. And so that helps us be a little bit more efficient and effective than running two separate systems. So, and yes, other than that, that's really all I wanted to highlight. If there's any questions.
Thank you.
Oh,
Christina, go ahead.
Yeah, we do have, we have one student right now on our committee. And then eventually we will, students are going to be very key. Eventually we'll probably have schools looking at leadership opportunities for students, particularly at middle school and high school, to help take ownership of the program because that's how it will be successful in our schools.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And thanks for everything else. It's great work.
Craig?
Yeah, Christine, has Southland got a full complement of bus drivers yet, or are they still looking for bus drivers?
They're always looking for bus drivers, but right now they are at full complement with a few extras. And so fortunately, they've been doing much better than other school jurisdictions in the province for that. But they always have some training. So they usually have 3 or 4 in training. So, but if you want to become a bus driver, Craig, they'll take a look at you.
Well, I was noticing that just about every school division that I've gone through through Utah and New Mexico are all advertising for bus drivers. So I guess it's a North American phenomena.
It certainly is, and we are way better off. Like Calgary and Edmonton is still very, very short for bus drivers. So we're in good shape.
Excellent. So seeing no other questions, I'll just say thank you definitely for all the work that you guys do and getting this report together as well. And then, of course, congratulations to Avis and the department for the ASBO Meritorious Budget Award for the 18th year in her first year. So congratulations. With that, we will move on to instructional services. Morag.
I'll be quite brief. It's been a very busy time. As you can see within the report, lots of events happening throughout the month past and into October. We really have had to respond to a lot of new students with some very significant needs. So we've been very busy as a team, Jen Day, Jackie Fletcher, myself, and then of course all of our school teams, learning support teachers, counselors, and administrators sort of triaging and trying to be creative and ensure that students get what they need, and staff as well are feeling supported. And it's been a tricky time because, as many of you probably see in the postings, we have a lot of EA postings unfilled. So that means that we have a lot of people on the ground floor running. Wanted to just also highlight, because I know there was so much conversation throughout the pandemic about extracurricular, had an opportunity or a couple opportunities to see some events at Chinook and Churchill, and just magical to see literally bleachers full watching grade 9 volleyball. Holy smokes. Never thought I'd see that, but it's amazing to see so much parent involvement and good social connection out there back in our schools. Karen Rancier and I finished a physical education and wellness PL for our principals today. Really fruitful conversation looking at the new curriculum rollout from K to 5 and starting to identify areas where we might need to look at resources. Of course, Truth and Reconciliation on September 27th was a fabulous event that all of our schools took part in. Pathways to Reconciliation that our Indigenous Ed team coordinated and put together, and just really magical to see all of the different ways that our schools have used those little orange rocks and created some very meaningful visuals in our schools. Think Outside is up and running again in our elementary schools. Nutrition program is going, and we have our fruit and veg program starting this week. Apples were the theme, so thanks to parents for volunteering and chopping up apples. Now that we're out of pandemic, we're able to be a little bit more creative with the fruit and the vegetables that we're going to be delivering this year, which is exciting. November 14th, we are going to be continuing to learn about thinking and how we can involve thinking in our teaching and in our learning. And Ron Richard will be presenting. I was going to also say 1701 submission. Thank you to all folks within our school system who contributed to making sure that that went out and we were able to complete that submission. And just offering lots of PL. We just finished a collaborative community day where we had, I think, over 60 different collaborative communities in our division, really providing opportunities for teachers and staff to connect on their passions and interests, scaffolding on their learning. And the rest is there for you. If you have any questions, I'm here for you.
Sounds good. Jenny?
I just had a question. We have on the important dates that human sexuality training happened for grade 9 on October 17th. What is the communication going home for parents and families around human sexuality training?
So that does come from a division letterhead, and it's sent out from schools to parents, and parents are allowed to opt their children out of the human sexuality component of health curriculum if they so choose.
So has this has already occurred for all grade 9 in our division?
That's the training.
That's the training for the teachers? Oh, okay.
Yeah, not training for kids. You're not training
kids on
human
I
sexuality.
missed that. That's what I was curious. The wording, human sexuality training, I was curious. The training, the wording. Okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense.
Lots of PL going on.
I thought, what initiative did we take on? Okay, thank you.
So can you, Kristen, go to so I can see if anybody else has other questions? Not seeing any. So I have a question. Can you just clarify for a 1701 submission?
So every year, September 30th is sort of the guiding deadline for school divisions to submit their student enrollment, right? And along with that student enrollment, there are codes, whether that be refugee or exceptionality, that we also have to submit and confirm to the government.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, and just before we move on to Mike, I'm just wondering, Kristen, I don't know if you're able to, but there is the link for the board meeting agenda is not working on our division website. So I don't know if you can do it at the same time or if that's something that people will just have to wait to have access to. Because I know it was there before because I went and looked at it, but it is not there currently. So awesome. So I'll just leave that with you guys and then I'll move on for our human resources with Mike.
Awesome. Thank you. So just a few highlights. You can see, I mean, it's been obviously busy with hiring, that sort of thing, getting the start of the school year going. That's starting to slow down a little bit, which is great, but it's certainly a year-round process. In terms of other highlights, one thing I wanted to call your attention to was the staff wellness focus groups that we held last week. So during the collaborative community days in the morning, we had about 16 teachers come in. Originally it was going to be about 20, and ended up being about 16, about the same number of support staff members in the afternoon. And it was about 2.5 hours just going through wellness and getting their feedback on things that are going well, areas for improvement, that sort of thing. And I got to say, it was absolutely fabulous. The feedback that we received was very candid, really good, deep conversations. Just, I think, very representative of just how professional our staff are, how deeply they care, and and their willingness to come in and be very honest, be very open. It was very good, and just a start in what we see as first initial steps in a bit of a journey here, as we work together with our staff to improve and enhance wellness wherever possible. You go into the second page, I'll give you the enrollment update. So as you are for the most part aware, so when you look at our K-12 enrollment overall, September 30th to September 30th, we went up 334 students from the previous year. As a reminder, there's always different numbers floating around. September 30th is just a snapshot in time. Kids move, kids come in, that sort of thing. And then Christine always has a little bit of different numbers just because there's a difference between which students are in our school, which students are funded, that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's the K-12 enrollment, the top numbers there. And then when we look at early learning programs as well, we're at about 11,948 students, and that's a difference of 272 students from last year. And we'll go through a little more detailed each school here in a second. One of the things we included in the report this year was just to take a look at our different cohorts. So I don't know if this makes sense to you, but essentially last year's grade 1s become this year's grades 2s, and so on. And one of the things we like to just take a look at is what's happening between cohorts. So are we retaining students? Are we losing students? That sort of thing. And you can see from the data that clearly for the most part, we tend to retain most of the students in the cohort, even add a little bit. Not that there aren't students moving out and then students moving in. That happens all the time when you're looking at 800 to 900 to 1,000 students. But certainly there's strong evidence there that families are choosing Lethbridge School Division, choosing to stay in Lethbridge School Division. We're happy about that. You also can kind of look at the transitions. Do we lose students going from elementary to middle school? Do we lose students going from middle school to high school? And you can see the trends there are pretty strong. You sort of have to almost, to some degree, you got to take the kindergarten, the first number of plus 141 and the last number of plus 124 with a little bit of a grain of salt, because what happens is you're always going to have, or for the most part, you typically have less students in kindergarten because kindergarten is not a mandatory program for parents. Some parents choose to do kindergarten, some don't. And then when you get into that grade 12, it also starts to count some students who come back to do a second year grade 12 or pick up some courses, that sort of thing. So those two numbers get a little bit skewed. That's why they look so much bigger than the other cohorts. But it's not, it's just the way the system works. Then Kristen, if you could scroll to the individual, so the enrollment pages there, just a few sort of highlights for you. And I know you've read it, so we won't go through it in detail unless you have questions, but you can see nothing surprising. We've told you about Coalbanks certainly growing and, grew by 48 kids. You can see Dr. Plaxton is down a little bit. That's primarily due to changes in students who are taking online programming, that sort of thing. And, that neighborhood and the demographics of that neighborhood are going to take us a few years to figure out as well. You can see Mike Mountain Horse grew by 67 kids. At least, 67 in their K-5 The number's a little bit less in, it's 41 when you include early learning. But again, lots of growth there. And then Westminster as well, lots of growth over there. And then if you scroll down to the high schools, you'll certainly see pretty big growth at LCI, 155 students. Chinook was one that surprised us a little bit. We expected their enrollment to be a little more flat, but they were up 33, and I think that's partially the result of just population growth that's happening on the west side. It's growing pretty fast. So that's a sort of a breakdown of the enrollment school by school. And as you can see, our early learning programs were down a little bit. Last year at this time, it was about 302 students, and now it's about 240 students. So yeah, if you want to just, yes, and just so you know, you've got, and you can probably see this from the titles, they're almost identical, these two sheets. One just shows you K to 12, so that's the student enrollment, no early learning, and the other one shows you student enrollment with the early learning program, so you get a sense of both. That's it from me, unless there's any questions.
I see Craig, go ahead, and then Jenny. I see Craig, go ahead, and then Jenny.
Yeah, just it's nice to see the division growing. I'm just wondering, though, can we have at November the occupancy rate at each school? Just that gives us a better idea of how each school is, how full each school is.
Yes, we can do that.
That's a Christine thing. Always excited to have your questions give Christine work, Craig, so thank you.
He's a support for you. So I have
Yeah.
Jenny and then Christina.
As far as these enrollments go, are we allowing students who don't live within the boundaries of each school to attend different schools, or are we keeping things strict to the boundaries where they reside?
So when the boundaries were redrawn 2 years ago, there were certain agreements that were put in place for particular schools as part of the transition plan. So, for example, the grade 9, there's a section of there was the students who were current at that time in grade 9 in Chinook High School who had the choice of continuing to attend Chinook High School or go to LCI. If they chose to attend Chinook High School, there was transportation in place for 3 years. So that there was some exceptions that were made. Otherwise, the policy still stands in terms of the school choice piece. And so if you look through that policy and procedure, and if any parents ever have questions, they can just give me a call. What it does is it gives there's a process that schools go through with respect, and there's priority. So if a school is full, Coal Banks, for example, is full. And so that Coal Banks does not accept any out of attendance boundary students other than their Spanish program. But some schools that are not full, so for example, who's not full? For example, Lakeview. So certainly Lakeview will take a look at registrations and accept out of attendance boundary students. The exception happens when it's there's not feasibility at a certain grade level or classroom level, right? And so that's outlined in the policy. So for example, if a class already has 27 grade 4 students and someone wants to come from out of attendance boundary school and they'll be the 28th, that the school would, because of their capacity in their classroom, say, no, we're not going to allow that transfer this year.
Thank you. Christina.
Mike, you mentioned folks coming back to complete some more classes and being counted in the grade 12 numbers. And I was wondering, do we have those numbers as separate on like a different count somewhere as well? I would just be interested to know like the degree of that happening for our students.
Yeah, I don't have them in front of me. I think Christine might have them. No, but yeah, but we could get them fairly easily in Power School. Yeah. So yeah, we can see if we can get those numbers for you.
I would just be interested to know, and then the perspective on like what that sort of means for students. Like, if we see a high number of students returning, Just for the board, does that mean that we need additional supports in place to, ensure graduation and a timeline, or is that advocacy? What does that need? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's certainly not atypical for students to come back and complete classes, that sort of thing. You're certainly looking at somebody who took that path in high school to come back and upgrade some classes. So yeah, we can certainly get you those numbers and see if there's any trends that we need to be aware there. And if it's changing, especially as we come out of a post-pandemic world, is that trend changing, or do we see a different?
Is just given the abnormal high school experience the last few years, just concerned about those students and that part of that transition.
Awesome.
I as well, Christina, was interested in seeing that change, and just if it is also any impact of other programs that our division is doing in regards to maybe our grad coaches or things like that might be increasing those numbers in that grade 12 year. So thanks for asking that question, Christina, and we'll be able to see more hopefully, and more egg.
And we definitely can bring in our assurance plan results that give the 5-year and 6-year grad. Yeah, so that'll be great. You guys can see that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mike. I'm not seeing any further questions, so we'll move on to our next one. Thank you for all your work, and I know that your staff have been doing busy doing lots of that training and bringing on new staff within our division. So, thank you. So next is our superintendent's report. For the first one is board priorities.
Right. So as we do every month, the staff contribute to ensuring that the board is kept up to date on what's been happening that supports the board priorities. So under domain of governance for this, I know that you've all have the opportunity to read it. And so just pointing out and commend, we've got a number of new staff in instructional services. Jackie Fletcher, Director of Inclusive Education, and Rochelle Neville, who's fairly new at the early learning portfolio. And we've got Jen Day as our counseling coordinator, and Joel Tailfeathers in Indigenous education. And I want to say thank you to Morag for your mentorship of these people, and to them for their hard work. As you can see from the report, things are really moving along strongly. In October is a very difficult time, as Morag suggested, for making sure we've got all the supports and services in place for students. And some of those students, students that are new to the division, are not necessarily that we've anticipated, that may have complex needs that we haven't planned for. And so certainly Jackie, Rochelle, Jen Day, Joel, others have really worked hard with always putting the student at the center of what it is that they're doing. Jody Babke is the new literacy lead teacher, and as you can see from the report under literacy, she's already rolled her sleeves up and been in schools in terms of assisting with the mandatory literacy assessments, the LENS and the CC3, and training and supporting and being in classrooms for in teachers new to Fountas and Pinnell as well. I know she's been working with 1 or 2 schools on making sure that they're doing the application of the assessment, and of course new curriculum has been huge for both of our lead teachers, Michaela Demers, who's has some experience with numeracy, and Jody for our implementation of our numeracy, mathematics and ELA and literacy, kindergarten to grade 3. And the experiential learning, this experiential learning, dual credit, off campus, has just really taken off. It's quite astonishing. There was the trades events evening, September 28th with the college, and Morag, help me out, I can't remember the name of it, but coming up is an event where businesses signed up for students to sign up to across Zone 6 to have experiences, and we've got something like 100 and an extraordinary amount of students signed up to do that.
Are you talking about the course that we're offering, the career
No, it's a one-day experience that
I don't know anything about it, so there you go.
one-day experience that businesses have signed up for students across the. That's it. Try a trade. Thanks, Garrett. Try a trade. 2 days, 2 evenings. And so certainly we've got, over 100 students who are planning to experience that. We've got the trades program, as Morag suggested, with Lethbridge College. We've got, and that's being supported with the grant that Morag successfully scripted for dual credit with Lethbridge College, a new program there, and that's in collaboration with our partners across Zone 6 as well. So a lot happening there, and certainly Andrew Kroll and his team can be commended for the hard work that they've done there, and it's just sort of been lit on fire, and businesses have become truly engaged in providing opportunities for our young people. Christine Lee mentioned how proud we are of our tech team. And I have to say, they never fail to surprise us for their innovation and the way that they do things. We're, as mentioned, they're working with a local 360 filmmaker to create a new 360 VR experience for off campus. And so what that might look like in terms of a 3-dimensional experience, we've got STEAM activities being promoted as well, and Lego challenge. And so how does life get better than a Lego challenge for our students to engage in over the course? That's going to be released in November. It's one of those great winter activities that students can do at home. They can enter as individuals, or they can enter as classes or small groups, whatever that might be. Early learning, Morag talked about, and certainly it's it was interesting because when we met with the city of Lethbridge the other day, there was a presentation by the Building Brains and Phalix Foundation. And I just wanted to make note that that's something Lethbridge School Division has been doing for years, and actually the one that spearheaded Building Brains and doing a project with the founders of that program was Isabel Plump, who started that here and forwarded it. And Holy Spirit and Lethbridge School Division were the first ones in Southern Alberta to implement that program. So, and the strength of our early learning program certainly speaks to some of those early foundations. Indigenous education, Morag spoke to the amazing and creative, engaging work that Joel Tailfeather, Shawnee Big Bull, Jenna Bruce, and Melanie Morrows are doing, and that the extent to which they plan for a Truth and Reconciliation Day for sure. Morag talked about what's wellness and what's happening with physical education wellness curriculum. That's another one of our new curriculums this fall. Fruit and Veggie program. And under diversity, we've got the Anti-Racism and Anti-Oppression Administrators Committee beginning to work on procedures to support the newly passed policy 103.1 anti-racism and anti-oppression. And I just want to give a bouquet to Karen Rancher and all the people that work with her, and that also includes Rhonda Oss, who works a lot with support staff, and others for the Collaborative Communities Support Day. We had 78 different collaborative communities. Now, if you remember, collaborative communities are communities that are established by the teachers, by the professionals. So they're the ones who decide the topic, the inquiry question. People can choose to go to the inquiry that they want to go to and explore the question that's been put out by the one who's invited them to the inquiry. And we've talked about priorities under inclusion with Morag's report. And unless there's questions, I'll end my report there.
Any questions? Christina?
Not so much a question as a thank you. I know that this is an extremely busy time in school divisions. Now that we've met all the students that are with us for the year and just really settling into all of the needs that we've assessed. And so just really appreciative of all the work of all the teams. Thanks for highlighting everything.
Thank you. I have a question now. I'm trying to find where it is, but I think it's a Morag question. There we go. So when it's Jen is hosting virtual summit to help reduce stigma around mental health called Headstrong. So is that the national program the Headstrong National Program. Okay, so just for trustees' information is that ASBA had done a considerable amount of work with Headstrong a number of years ago, and this is a program that ASBA strongly supports, and they had brought youth from across our province together for one of our ASBA, I want to say it was the spring general meeting, potentially a number of years ago, but it's definitely, as trustees, you can take a look a bit more into that Headstrong program. It is definitely a great program and opportunity for our youth to be involved in that youth summit, looking at that mental health aspect. So take a look at that if you, as a trustee, want to explore and learn a bit more. And thank you for doing that work with Headstrong. So thank you, Jen. So with that, just thank you, Morag, for your team and everything that you guys do, because it is a lot and everything. So thank you, Cheryl. I'm not seeing any further questions for that report, so we'll move on to donations and support.
That information is there for you and the public, and I'll say, as I say every month, we're incredibly fortunate to live in the city of Lethbridge, where we have individuals, businesses, companies that really strongly support our schools in different ways. And these, it's always interesting because certainly these are monetary donations. And there, I always say every month as well, there might be some that are missed here, right? Because these are the ones that, we know about and learn about through reporting, and we eventually get caught up. But there's also all kinds of donations and supports that are provided by businesses, community members, parents that aren't necessarily monetary, whether that be supporting food programs. And there's all kinds of ways that we're being supported by the community. Just keep going.
Yep, thank you.
And the acknowledgement of, sorry, Craig, didn't see ya.
Or just, I don't know if it's been put up there, but I know that, and I think this is really worth making sure that we know it. I know Garrett took pictures of it, but Victoria Park got a donation from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints through their Just Serve program, I think for $17,000 to buy a vehicle from Lethbridge Subaru, and Lethbridge Subaru is going to maintain the vehicle for free. And I know the school division is paying for their insurance, but it's allowing those kids that don't have access to a vehicle to learn drive. And I think it was mentioned that they have a new program to learn how to drive, and there's volunteers helping with that. And I just haven't seen it through the minutes, but I think that's a worthwhile acknowledgement of a major donation to Victoria Park School.
Yeah, absolutely, Craig. And we'll add that on to we'll add it to our next month donations and support. So it's there, not just added on. And we did feature that on our website and put out a press release for that. It was absolutely generous and exciting for sure.
Jenny.
I did have somebody from the community reach out to me on that one. Highland was his last name, and I directed him to the division office.
Yes, and he was here. Yeah, he came for that day. Yep.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
He was the communications person from the church.
I think so,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any further comments or questions. So if you would like to carry on with acknowledgements of excellence.
All right. And so we've got two schools this month, Cole Agnes Davidson and Victoria Park and Lethbridge Alternative Schools. So at Cole Agnes Davidson, this is their second year as a single track French immersion school. And they're really capitalizing on that and beginning to build on culture. We've talked about culture and how, they're really starting to script their story as a single track French immersion school with a real emphasis on culture and language within that school. And thrilled, of course, that they can, as are all of the schools, invite parents and community in. They work really hard as well on making sure that professional learning of their teachers align with what it is that they're doing as a school. They talk about some activities that they participated in as a school over the first 2 months, and upcoming in November. This is a long-standing tradition at Cole Agnes Davidson. If you ever been to their turkey bingo, it is an event to go to. And so certainly it's a lot. They get to actually do it in person again. And so that's coming up November 3rd, not far from now. And so that's one of their big events, as well as what they used to always have, and certainly coming back again, is their Christmas market, supported by the Domesticated Divas, and a great way to start these Christmas shopping strongly. A school strongly supported by parents, parent community, and really an interactive, engaging school to go visit for sure. Victoria Park, I mean, one of their highlights that are on here is, just as Trustee Whitehead indicated, very exciting. I know they started to work on that program, planning it last spring, because they needed to first get through business affairs to see if there was going to be any insurance snags. And so Christine Lee and myself met with the administration and decided that everything could move forward. And so a very exciting launch for those students, that they could do that. And as you see outlined in terms of Victoria Park, they really think a lot about achieving a preferred future for their 300 students. How do they help students imagine what it is that they can be, and how do they provide the supports and services, education, courses, and classes that they need? And if you take a look at some of the options they offer, for example, really focusing on keeping students in school, focusing on giving students experiences that give them, make them passionate about coming to school. There's a list there of a breadth of classes. When you think about, the size of the school and the number of options that are offered is quite astonishing. They really they do think deeply about what it is that they can do to engage the students. The driver experience program is there for you to read as well. And so certainly they've also really committed to using nature and community as their learning space as much as possible. And they even purchased a class set of mountain bikes and a transport trailer, allowing for students to learn the skill of cycling. And so they've really, if you take a look at some of the initiatives over the last couple of years, the administration and staff have worked really hard at providing engaging activities, life skills, integrating students into the community, giving them confidence, giving that sense of efficacy, that they can do what they need to do to be successful adults. And they also have, and their student leadership is amazing. I don't know if the students if any of you had the opportunity to go to the Victoria Park Pancake Breakfast last Wednesday, Thursday, and that was sort of their, their leadership group was there. They were out all over town promoting it to businesses, and they donated the funds that they raised to the Chinook Sexual Health Assault Center. Sexual assault center. And so they really, they are beginning, not only are they gaining confidence to be in the community, they're becoming leaders within the community and giving back to the community what they can. They talk about their professional learning there, and really strong focus on diversity and inclusion in their learning, including our LGBTQ plus community, and the mindfulness partnership with the University of Lethbridge. And so certainly a very a place where students can be as an alternative program, outreach program, to be embraced for who they are, and ensure that we do everything possible to support their graduation and transition into adulthood. And then there's some there's some pictures there for you of some of the things that they've done. And then we've got calendar of events. Oh, sorry, I should stop. Are there any questions about Victoria Park or Agnes Davidson? Nope, we're good.
Thank you.
And we always count on you to tell us something that we've missed on the calendar of events, trustees. So the calendar of events are there. The things that we've missed that we need to add.
Audit Committee, November 16th.
Anything else?
I thought we were going to have the audit committee meeting on the 21st, so it's been changed.
I don't know. That's what I have in my calendar.
While she's checking, I also believe that there is a policy advisory committee meeting on November 9th. November 9th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're correct, Craig. It is November 21st. I had the old one. Still in my calendar.
All right.
And then November 9th, the policy advisory committee. I think that's it. Excellent.
Okay.
And then moving on to the board boundary review process.
It's a tongue twister.
It is.
Award boundary review process, and we have times, and then we'll turn it over to Lee. So first I want to say thank you to Christine Lee for developing this. And what was the impetus for this? Why is it that the board is looking at this? It's because the city of Lethbridge City Council decided that they would take a look at what might award boundary system look like, what would be the implications for the city, and what would be the timelines for that. And so being proactive, our MAR trustees asked the executive council to take a look at depending upon what happens with the city of Lethbridge, although we have to be directed by that, but should a school division decide to explore or talk about award system, what might that look like? And so asked Christine Lee to give her review.
Sure, I'll walk you through the lovely chart that we've created. And what I did is I took the city of Lethbridge created a chart. And so I'm kind of piggybacking off of what they were doing. But first of all, we are governed by the Education Act. And so Section 76 of the Education Act outlines the establishment of wards as passed by law by December 31st prior to the election year. By December 31st, 2024, we have to pass a bylaw on how many trustees we're going to have in the next election and what our structure will be for the election. So for instance, last election, we did trustees elected at large through the city of Lethbridge. No ward system. Okay. So that was that bylaw that was passed. That's a requirement under the Education Act. So we're governed by that. So if we're gonna do a ward system, then we have to make sure we're getting to that December 31st, 2024 time that if we're going to choose either to elect city or by a ward system. So backing from that. So November 2022 to October 2023. So it's a long period of time. The city of Lethbridge is currently doing their review to determine if they want to have a ward system and what that ward system look like. So they've established an electoral ward commission that's doing that review. They're going to do all that work. We can't really start that work until they're done their work. Because if the city decides not to do a ward system, it really doesn't make sense for us to do a ward system because they handle our election. And it makes sense to try and closely align to what they're doing. So while this is going on, we're going to engage and be informed by what the city of Lethbridge is doing. They've told us that they will be consulting with school boards because it's also important for them because they do understand that they do support us in our election process. That it all makes sense if they go through that. And so one of the things we have to do is we have to prepare what we call a ward boundary review policy, and that's per Section 76 of the Education Act that creates a review and approval process if we're going to set up a ward system. So should we go down that route, we need a policy for that. So I was able to find because I believe in borrowing instead of recreating the wheel. I found one that the City of Calgary Board of Education has. And so I have done a draft policy and that's ready to go should we decide to use it. November 2023. So hopefully the city's made their decision on whether they're going to pursue a ward system. And if they do, then we will start the process with our policy. November 2023 to February 2024. So we're gonna work with the city to get their data, look at our demographics, and see does it make if they've decided to go with award system, does that make sense for us to follow the same award system? So we'd be reviewing all that. And we present our recommendations to the Board of Trustees. March 2024 to April 24, you'd want to engage your public in the case of the word system, because we could still choose not to do a word system. But if we wanted to follow suit, then you'd want to engage your public in an engagement process. So we'd work on that. And then review feedback. So that's sort of that period in March 2024. June 2024 to October 2024. So we're now a year out from the election. In June, we need to bring this new bylaw to the Board of Trustees for first reading to adopt the ward boundaries. That bylaw I talked about that we have to do every year, whether you're doing it at large or if you decide to create wards. In June is when we bring the first reading of that bylaw. Okay, so either large or a ward system. So then that would go for first reading. In September 2024, we bring the second reading and potentially third reading if there's no changes or adjustments. And then if not passed, third reading is September, we have October. So our deadline was December 31st. The plan here is to have that done and passed by October. Okay, so we got some time. If there's something that happens, we've got a little bit of wiggle room. November 2024 to December 2024, then we would communicate our new ward boundaries. We'd start working with the city of Lethbridge on a new ward system and the requirement for nominations, and of course the October election, because they of course run our election for us. And then October 25, we would either have a new ward system or we would not, and we'd have our election. So that's the process. Any questions?
Not seeing any questions.
Clear as mud?
Clear as mud.
Yeah, it really doesn't start until we know what the city's doing.
Yeah.
But we're ready if we're ready when they are.
I appreciate you working on this, Cheryl and Christine and your team, just so that we can be proactive and be ready, and rather than being behind the 8 ball. So I appreciate you guys doing this. Thank you. And it is 3:30 and we have a presentation today. So I'm going to, are you introducing or? Okay. And if not, we can do our next item.
Do the next one.
Yeah.
Then they can get that out.
Everybody's waiting outside for.
Oh.
There's chairs along the side there. I think
Let's do it.
You're gonna be on the camera.
Are you guys set up? Guys?
I think. Well, let's give you some preference. If you want. We'll pull the chair behind you.
Everyone is outside.
I almost pulled it out.
Aw,
I was gonna pull it out.
they're a true partnership. And so, you know, when I was really excited to ask these two individuals, Andy and Jesse, to present at the board, because I think that we can be exceptionally proud of the fact that we had 2 of our staff members present at a global conference that has the highest number of registrants. This is the highest attended conference globally. And so, you know, part of, and then I was interested because I thought, well, you know, maybe I'll pick a section out. Then I thought I can't pick a section out because it's all good. And then I watched it again, can't pick a section out because it's all good. So I think that really to get a really good sense of the kind of innovation that's going on, and the kind of leadership that's in our school and our division, and this is just one example because certainly everywhere. So this video sort of shows the project that's happening at under Andy's leadership at our Dr. Robert Plaxton School, and as well as the support program that's happening at LCI. And so both were part of their presentation in the conference. Look, the video speaks for itself. We'll just watch it. Well, wait. Oh, Jesse wants to say a few things.
Yeah, just to clarify, so this is the Noble Conference, attended about by Lenovo. This is their big showpiece conference, 70,000 people globally. We went back and forth. How do you describe where Lethbridge is? We were invited to this. This isn't something you apply to go to or anything. Lenovo reached out to us and said, we want to tell some of our people and our customers and our education support solutions what you've been doing there because it's pretty exciting. And so Andy and I had the opportunity to do this with them, along with a case study they're currently working on surrounding VR in schools. So yeah, it was supposed to be, they told us a 5-minute clip and it ended up being extended to close to 10 minutes originally, right? So they told us about 5. So yeah, so it'll speak for itself. I tried not to say anything inappropriate or crazy. It's hard always when you're on camera, but anyway, so we had to, I'm going for a haircut today, so. I did just to match the video, so. All right, I'll stop talking.
That was great.
Yeah, thanks for letting us present it. And yeah, if you ever want to hear the TikTok story about my 10-year-old daughter this summer, come see me on the side and we'll talk about it, how we had to rein that in.
Are there no other questions? Okay, thank you guys so much for everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you for keeping us relevant and exciting.
Yeah.
The Lego challenge. Oh, next month. Honestly, mentioned it already. Okay, watch for posters after. Watch for posters.
Thank you, guys. And then we will skip ahead on our agenda because I see that we have our international trip approval for LCI. So David, did you want to come up? Good. We do need you to sit at a mic after.
So yeah, there's one right there.
Wow. Holy. I'd like to introduce Dave Fletcher from LCI, and he's bringing forward an international trip for approval.
Okay, we're pretty excited about this one. It's nice to get back to international travel. I've led 5 trips through Europe so far, so this would be number 6. And I think we're getting wiser and wiser as we go through and planning these. And I think this one is, it's about as tight as you can possibly get as far as packing as much in 12 days as you possibly can. So it's a war and remembrance tour. So we are going to be doing what we have been doing with the students, going to the Canadian battlefield sites and getting students to research, I was going to say a student, but a soldier who fought in World War I and World War II, and focusing in on Juno Beach and a soldier that's buried at Benny-Sur-Mer Cemetery. So we have a list of thousands of Canadian soldiers that are buried in that area. And what we do is we get students to research and put a little something together. So I've got some past examples here. Maybe I'll pass this around. It's a little scrapbook of soldiers that students have done some research on. They get they decide who they would like to research, and then they end up getting a package. And in the package is the attestation papers, a whole life story essentially, and as much information as the Canadian Archives have on this soldier. And then they try to do whatever research they can do on top of that and add into the library of information that the Canadian War Records has on these soldiers. Then what we do is we head to Europe, and we end up going to the Benny-Sur-Mer Cemetery. We have a memorial that we do on Juno Beach, and very powerful. The students lead that, and then we also have the students eventually visit the gravesite of the soldier they have been researching. And as you can imagine, very emotional and impactful. This time around, we also have Chinook High School that's going to be in Europe at the same time, and we're going to be at our day 4 and day 5 overlap, so we're going to be able to go to Passchendaele and to Vimy Ridge together, and so we're planning on doing a Lethbridge Memorial at Vimy Ridge as well, so that'll be fantastic. We put together little information packages for these students too, so that everybody knows what's going to be happening at all times, and there's a little area in there for them to fill information in as a little journal as they go through as well. But let's take a look at this itinerary. So what we'd be doing is leaving from Lethbridge and heading to Europe. Yeah, wouldn't that be wonderful? So we land in Amsterdam, and this is a pretty nice way to break them into. These trips are designed to have so many different emotional impacts on the students, but you wouldn't want to have a tour that is just doom and gloom and war and death and all this kind of stuff for the duration. So we start off in Amsterdam. We do a beautiful walking tour of the city. We go past all these canals, and then we have a canal cruise at night. And then the next day, the first day is always a bit of a schmoz because they're so tired and jet lagged. But the next day we have a tour of the Clog and Cheese Factory. We go to Anne Frank's house. We go to the museum and see Van Gogh's paintings. And we have a little bit of time in Amsterdam as well. So that really starts to break them in, gets that little bit of culture shock out of the way, and then we head into our World War I, World War II areas. So we hop on our charter bus, and the first day, I've never gone to a concentration camp before, so this is going to be a new one. But there is a concentration camp on the way to Normandy. So we'll be stopping in this region that is in Belgium. And then right next door is Passchendaele. So we'll go see the battlefield sites of Passchendaele, and there's an amazing interactive museum that they've set up at Passchendaele. From there, we head on and we'll go to the Tyne Cot Memorial Center, which is the largest Commonwealth grave site in the world. And then we'll participate in the last post ceremony at Meningate, the site where after World War I, they decided it wasn't good to have a Remembrance Day service every year. They have a Remembrance Day service every single day. So ever since 1919, when they had their first Remembrance Day ceremony, they decided to have a Remembrance Day ceremony every single day. We'll be staying in the city of Ypres in Belgium. It's an amazing small town with the best Nutella gelato you've ever had in your life, and a city that owes its existence to Canadians in World War I. And protecting it from gas warfare as well as the German attacks. So Canadians are very well regarded there in Ypres. The next day we head off to Viva Ridge, as we mentioned, and I don't think I need to explain the importance of that site to Canadian and Canadian students. From there we go to the medieval city of Rouen, and we get to see where Joan of Arc was burned at the stake. And then we head on to Grand Camp, which is on the Norman coastline, and get ready for our next day, which will be in Normandy. So this day will start with exploration of Pointe du Hoc, where the Texas Rangers climbed the cliffs during the D-Day invasion, and they've left it as untouched as they can, just for people to explore what this would have looked like. It is phenomenal. There's a lot of underground dugouts as well as giant cannons that still exist that we're trying to protect Hitler's Fortress Europe. We then go to Juno Beach, and as I mentioned, we'll do our ceremony there and go to the Juno Beach Center, which luckily, I don't know if you heard in the news, but they've been able to rescue from the development of condos in that area. And then we'll finish off with, with our tour of Benny-Sur-Mer Cemetery, and then head off to Omaha Beach before exhaustedly going home at the end of that very long and emotional day. Day 7 has us heading to Versailles and Paris. So we'll get up back on our charter bus, head off to Versailles, which is on the way, do a tour of the grounds and the very famous palace before we head off to Paris. What we've noticed in the past is Paris is a very busy city, and quite often the kids get on edge when you get into Paris, especially riding on the subways. So I've decided this time to limit our time in Paris, to do a bus tour, to get their shots of the iconic places like the Eiffel Tower. We'll ascend to the top of the Arc de Triomphe, where you get the best pictures of Paris, and then we are going to be finished with Paris. So we will get to see all the main sites the kids want to see, but we are going to be limiting our time in that city. We'll stop at the recently burned cathedral, the Notre Dame Cathedral, and then we will be flying to Venice. So we'll then hop on a quick flight that will take us to Italy, and there we'll be able to do a number of sightseeing things, including going on the gondola, the famous gondola rides, go to a glass blowing demonstration, as well as visiting some of these other major sites of Venice. Like I said, this is action-packed. The next day we're hopping on a new coach, and this time heading off to Pisa, just outside of Florence, and then heading into Florence. We'll also be getting to go to the Tuscan countryside and be able to see life in the country of Italy, having a traditional Tuscan lunch at a farm, and then heading back into Florence. The next day we have entirely in Florence, where we'll be doing tours of their domed cathedral, as well as having time to ascend to the top of their tower, which is like Pisa's, but standing straight up, and then have some free time in Florence. And the next day, we hop back on the charter bus for one last trip, Florence, to Rome. So this this last little leg will take us to Rome. We'll hit the major sites of Rome. And then we have a very fun and interactive gladiator experience where they go out to this site where gladiators were trained and they get to be trained like gladiators before we have one last pizza supper and then fly home the next day. So, like I said, it's action packed. I tell the students that we're training them to be rock stars, that every day you're moving to a new city and don't get too accustomed to one hotel. We'll be traveling with either EF or Explorica. We're right now in negotiations with them, trying to get the best price possible for the students. It is expensive, so we're looking right now at a price point that is between $4,200 and $4,600. So we're going to try to get that as low as we possibly can, and it's nice when the different travel groups start to compete with each other. And of course, there's all these different insurance groups that they now have and options for students. One of the things we make sure we do look at is now with COVID, with other unforeseen things, will we be insured for that? And if we do need to cancel because of unforeseen things, will the students be getting their money back? So that's one thing we have to make sure we guarantee. That is essentially it. I'm sure you guys are aware of the reputation of these travel agencies and their guarantees that they are giving us. And I don't have any issue with either of them, no matter which one we end up going with. That's essentially my pitch. Any questions?
Go ahead, Christine.
I just wanted to comment too about the insurance, which is good that you're considering it. We also, the school division also has blanket travel insurance as well. That's also an additional that will assist. And particularly they have health professionals that if you have something specialized happen to a kid, that they can get you like into whatever you need to. So I'm glad you're considering that because that's good to have that. But we also, just, you know, we do also have coverage to help.
Maureen.
I did notice in looking at the Canadian Travel Advisory that there's exercise high degree of caution for France, and we haven't typically granted travel to a high degree of concern. So just wondering if there's a backup plan for France.
Yeah, for both Belgium and France right now, there is a travel advisory in place. We are going to be traveling through more of the remote areas of these countries, and we are traveling on our own charter bus. So I do think that those risks, the ones that they are concerned about, are mitigated to a degree. I know that there is concern, but I also think that there is great value in travel, and especially this type of travel where you are focused on Canadian history and military history.
Going to say, I think just to keep in mind moving forward that because the division never has approved travel to a high degree of caution area, that, you know, a trip approval just may simply be contingent on having some alternate for that particular location in the trip, David. If like so, and so that I think that has to be a consideration unless trustees have other thoughts on that. But that's traditionally been, just reinforcing what Mark, that's traditionally been the case. Yeah.
Jenny, you have a question?
Just a comment. I think sometimes as a parent myself, I trust my schools to a high degree. And so having this come home, I would probably not do maybe even my own homework to recognize that travel advisory for that area. And I know that would be my responsibility. But knowing myself, I just have that trust innately in my schools. And so I think it might be important just to even raise awareness with the packet going home to.
You mean to put that in the information to the parents that be advised that there currently is a travel advisory,
or
against
to even
France
keep
and
an eye
Belgium.
on it for themselves.
Yep.
Because we have some time before you really are leaving as well, right?
But we do want, because this is coming up in Easter, to have students to be able to register for the trip. And prior to them registering, I want to make sure we have board approval as well as be able to relay that information to parents.
Christine?
A couple of questions, but my first is with the travel advisory. What are the insurance ramifications of allowing students to go
to a destination that is advised against?
I would have to have that specific conversation with our broker to see what because they recommend we keep an eye on those things. And if we're not following our own policy, then we've put ourselves in jeopardy.
So I would be cautious of that then. I would think I would want to know that we are protecting our students and ensuring that we're moving forward well with integrity and that our students are protected. And I think the intent of saying, it's more remote and we have our own transportation, I fully appreciate and understand that. But at the end of the day, our board is responsible for these students. And so I would like more information on that front. My other question was with the cost. I think these are incredible opportunities. I think they're invaluable learning journeys for our students as well as our staff. I always struggle with the high cost of them and the barriers that puts. And so just in the letter that was placed, it said students have been encouraged to find a part-time job to fund their trip. That's quite a bit of money for a student to earn, even half of that through a part-time job. So I'm wondering, what other options are you providing for students to fundraise for this trip?
Well, we have tried in the past to do a number of different fundraising activities. Quite often that involves something that lands mostly on the supervisor's shoulders to get organized and results in very little money per student. Once you divide it up, it's like, okay, we did all this work, here's $50 towards your trip. Whereas if the student is able to get a job, especially if they're if they are earning $15 an hour or $13 an hour, you can be making a significant amount of money to put a dent in the cost for this trip. I personally take on the extra amounts. So we do have to get a charter bus to go from Lethbridge to Calgary to get to the airport and back, as well as all the tip money. So that translates into about $5,000. So I take that on to try to find some type of sponsorship to cover a lot of those funds for the students. So it's not even more on top of the incredibly high amount. But let's face it, it is expensive travel in the world, especially when you have a full-time guide plus specialized guides for each of the places you go to, and hotels and flights and the meals, right? The nice part is trips like this, the only thing they actually have to worry about then is their lunches. And because we keep them moving so much, I don't like the type of trips where you end up stranding these kids where they have free time and there's all these temptations to buy things. Whereas we just keep them moving and they really don't have time. I tell them right up front, this is not a shopping trip. This is not a vacation. This is educational. We're in a classroom.
Craig.
Just want to know what is the reason for the high advisory right now for France and Belgium?
In France, it talks about, pickpocketing, bag snatching occurs mainly in Fort-de-France and its port. Thefts from cars also can occur. Avoid deserted beaches, isolated areas. After dark, don't walk alone at night. I don't think you have to worry about that. Ensuring your belongings, including passport and other travel documents, are secure at all times.
Threat of terrorism.
Yeah, terrorism is a regular thing in France.
That is, there's no health right now. There's no health warnings about COVID or anything, right?
Right, and that was the decision that we would make pre-COVID when we had travel. We would always consult travel advisories. And if we ever had any that presented with this, we wouldn't have approved them in the past. But again, it's up to the board's will to determine what they'd like to do with this.
I guess as a teacher that's taken students on a trip too, some of those things that they listed can happen even taking kids from Alberta to Quebec. So I don't see a major problem in approving this. But again, I mean, we don't know what they're going to do. I mean, terrorism is a threat in any country. So I myself feel pretty comfortable because Mr. Fletcher has a pretty tight schedule, and I don't think the kids are going to have a lot of time to be involved around these areas where they could run into trouble.
Christina, go ahead.
Presentation. I went on a very similar trip when I was in high school and it was very impactful. But just looking at you mentioned the Chinook trip as well. And so more of a question, I think, to our exec or former or repeating board members. So because that one, as you mentioned, was also approved for France, Belgium, London, and that was approved in May. The stipulation there was on the condition that policies are met. And I was just trying to look to see about that advisory piece, because I would agree with Christine's mention of, if we're making decisions beyond our policy, that potentially puts young people in harm's way. Obviously, that's not ideal. So for clarity, my question to maybe executive is, if those advisories were in place, even though the Chinook one has been approved on the condition of policy alignment, if those conditions can remain in place, is that Chinook trip going ahead?
We're just consulting right now to policy.
In the
Jenny.
just while we're consulting policy, can you speak to the plan for chaperones?
Yeah, we have teachers, supervisors in place to meet the ratios that we have, the 1 to 10. And got an all-star crew of people that I've traveled with before that I trust implicitly that are going to be strong supervisors. Yeah, we have Rod and Jen Scott, Rob McKenzie, and my wife, Kat. There's 2 that are interested in coming along that would be participants, not supervisors. Yep. Well,
So parents joining the trip are not put over supervision of
no,
anyone other than their own child.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think at this point that we might table this item just till the end of the meeting. And we'll certainly, I don't think at this point we have any more questions for you, but that we'll get back to you and we'll deal with this at the end of our meeting if that works for you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Maybe I just throw one more thing in there, right? The idea that a travel advisory is put it on as a blanket for an entire country, right? If you think of the United States, there's certainly some areas of the States I would never take kids, right? That would be very dangerous. But there's some places that definitely take kids within the United States. And I think that we have to think of this in the same regard, yes, there's risk. There's risk taking kids on any trip. Do the rewards that they're going to be walking away with outweigh those risks? The reason why we're doing the trip this year, I was planning on doing it next year. The grade 12s came to me and they said, we desperately want to do an international trip. That we, because of COVID for the last, they just feel like they've been, a little bit robbed, and that this is their opportunity to do one of these big trips. And I talk about all the time in the social studies class, when we do this, when we go here with these Warren Remembrance tours, and the kids are very excited about it. In fact, when we opened it up to start taking a list of students that would be interested in going, that list has over 80 students on it right now that are ready to sign up and wanting to go on this trip.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dave. And I think for us, it's just making sure that we aren't out of compliance of our policies. So we'll take a look and review that and we'll get back to you. Excellent. Tyler, go ahead. And thank you.
The way that when we word our motions in the fact that all district policies and procedures are strictly adhered to solves most of the issues with that. So I don't think there's, from my standpoint, I don't think there's any issues in approving a trip like this, because by the time lots of things change between now and the time the trip happens anyway. So I don't see there being any issue with that. And the policies, procedures, travel advisories, all those things are checked prior to the trip ever happening. So that would just be my take on it.
Okay. So if we were to pass a motion with that, with the condition that all division policies are followed, our policy currently states that they can't go on that high risk trip. So then procedures. Okay. But this does say that on the condition that all division policies and procedures are strictly followed. So then that actually would not, the trip would not be able to continue on because it is in our procedures, right? So
Do we have definitions of what the restrictions are or anything in our procedure? What kind of restrictions would cause us? Okay. So it's a high advisory? Is it a red? What's the advisory? Like
It's yellow, it's not red.
On the Canadian government website, it's a yellow and it's listed for, it says, exercise a high degree of caution in France due to the elevated threat of terrorism. And there is a link to a document from the interior of France, but it's all in French and I do not speak French. So anyone who does can follow that
I
link
would have to get guidance
for
from
more
our insurer.
information.
No, I won't have that right now. No.
okay. When do you need an answer by?
Yeah, if I want to start signing students up, to be fair to them, to give them enough time to raise funds and start paying this down, I would like to know as soon as I could, of course, or if I can have the opportunity to start having students sign up for the trip, just so they can start knowing for sure if they're going or going on the trip.
Okay, Cheryl?
I think the motion with international trips, as the motion is always stated, does do the policy and procedure piece. And I think, as we're looking, is it amber? Is it red? I think what we need to do is spend some time this week looking deeply at that, so LCI can get a response. But so if the board were to pass the motion with the proviso that policies and procedures are followed, then that would give us the chance to work with LCI, work with David, and explore more deeply exactly what does that advisory say, right? And that gives Christine the chance to talk to insurance, gives Morag the chance to take a look at exactly what that advisory says, and then give a response in a timely manner to LCI so that they don't have to wait until the next board meeting. And I think we should be able to accomplish that within the week or so. And so because it looks like maybe it's orange and maybe there's mitigation of risk in place, and that will give Christine an opportunity again to talk to insurance. And then does that make sense for both the board and LCI as a process that we can work through?
Jenny?
So just to clarify, I'm comfortable passing this if we have follow-up communication after there's more investigation done and follow-up verifying that we've met all of our requirements of our procedures and policies.
So what we can certainly do that. And so Christine can talk to insurance. Maura can look more deeply into the travel advisories. We can make a decision with respect to level of risk, because really it's about what's the level of overall risk. And then we can provide that to LCI, and we can certainly copy the board in terms of whether or not there'd be any measures on the part of LCI that would need to be taken to mitigate risk.
So I have Christina and then Craig. Go ahead, Christina.
Oh yeah, I'm prepared to move it if we're ready.
Do we want to put anything in regards to the insurance piece? Because it speaks about the division policies and procedures. We're good?
Yeah.
Okay, so Christina, the motion is there in front of you. Is that the motion that you would like to make?
Oh, sorry, I can't see it.
Okay.
I was just gonna move that the LCI trip as presented is approved by the board with condition of adherence to all division policy and procedure, including compliance with insurance requirements.
Thank you. So moving on to discussion, Craig, you were next.
I've just been looking through some of the travel advisories for France, and there looks like there's 4 stages, and it's number 2, which means just exercise increased caution. So I would support this motion based on policies and procedures that we follow and that we're in compliance with insurance. And so I have no problem with this.
I'm not seeing any further discussion on this, so we'll move to a motion. Those in favor? And Tyler, if you can just turn your screen on. Perfect, and that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Yes, enjoy.
And you should be very proud of the work that's done.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Turn your mic on if you're talking, just because they can't hear.
What is our due diligence process when somebody, like, we've already approved a trip? Is there then somebody that then before they actually
They're
leave
supposed
goes
to, yes,
through?
they're supposed to do a check, the group is supposed to do a check for advisory. There's a checklist. Yeah.
There's a check.
Yeah. And I'm having a meeting with the travel coordinators in another week or so to talk to them about some of that insurance stuff and emerging stuff, risk stuff they need to be worried about. So
Christina, is your hand still up? Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, so if we could get the follow-up about just how it ends up with the procedure and policy, not just with this trip, but with the Chinook trip to the same place, as well as if I could just get a bit more information about how the policy and procedure applies to the parents who are participants but not supervisors. Like, do they still follow the volunteer procedures? Sorry, I should have asked that earlier. It just came.
I guess it depends if they're coming along, but not on the actual trip, you know what I mean? Because sometimes they come, but they're, yeah.
We'll get clarification on that. Get back to. Sounds good. Is anybody else feeling like we need to take a quick break? Okay, so we will take a quick break. We'll come back at 4:25, so that gives us 7 minutes. Okay, thank you. So we're going to go back up on our agenda to 6.6, which is Town Hall. And that is enclosure 6.6 in your packages. Let's go back to that part. So I will turn this over to Cheryl. As you can see in the memo there, that it was the questions that came forward are based on the work that we did do as a board. And I'll turn the next part over to Cheryl to introduce the questions and go from there.
Right, and so the board, I'm sure you remember, spent some time talking about what is it that we would like to see as a town hall question. I took notes and then met with Allison and Jenny, and we talked about, you know, based on the notes that were taken and their understandings of what was said and mine, what might be a question that would reflect, or questions that would reflect what the board was hoping for. And so one thing that the board expressed, as you know, was, and this isn't fully developed, this is draft, right? This isn't draft, so that whatever questions are there, that we would put some background information. And so that would be, that's an example there as background information. One of the domains of the assurance reporting framework required by Alberta Education is student growth and achievement. This provincial domain aligns with the division priorities of achievement and innovation. Strategies for the 2022-23 school year can be found in the board assurance plan. It would be better described than that, but really the point being that the question, and in this case, the way it's scripted right now, and you'll decide whether you move forward with it or not, is related to learning and student achievement. So that's why that gives that background. Then a purpose would be fully developed. The board would like feedback from parents, students, staff, and community members about how we are doing with supporting student growth and achievement in our classrooms. The town hall questions for February 7th, 2023, focus on gaining your perspective and using it to inform board priorities and strategies for the 23-24 school year. And the two questions are there for board consideration. In what ways are we successfully supporting students to help them grow as learners? And where do you see room for improvement in supporting students as learners?
I'll open it up for questions or feedback on the work. Thank you, Cheryl, for bringing that together from what we had talked about. You're good if you need to go.
Yeah.
Okay. And go ahead, Craig. Go ahead, Craig.
Questions, but I'd like to add something to it because I think this is an important part of schooling, not just learning, but help them grow as learners and citizens. And how do we see room for improvement in supporting students as learners and citizens? Learning is one aspect, but citizenship in a school is absolutely as important as learning. And I would like to have that discussed as well. And I think you could do the two of them together because as learners, we learn how to become better citizens. So I'd like to see that little bit added, and I would then support these questions.
Okay. As learners and citizens. I'm going to have to answer this.
We're just wanting to, one of our focus was just making sure that that was still within the classroom and the school community. So as long as we're good that reflects that it's within that context. Looking for other feedback or comments. Are we liking that addition? Christine?
I agree with Craig in that it's important. I think the hesitancy I have in adding, and feel free to convince me, Craig, the hesitation I have on adding citizens after learners is I think it has the possibility to shift the focus away from the classroom into how are we preparing them for community as opposed to learning and academic learning. So that's my hesitancy. I think citizenship can be encompassed naturally. What I appreciate about the questions is it's broad and it allows stakeholders to speak to what's important to growing learning and supporting learning. And I think definitely citizenship and work readiness and community engagement are part of that learning naturally. And I would like to see that come more organically than specifically within the question. I don't know that it's necessary as a word.
Jenny?
I'm in agreement with Christine. I like the focus of the question, and that I recognize the value of citizenship in our students and in our schools, but I also recognize the value of specifically focusing a discussion on one topic, and I think that we weighed out our options and we want to talk about students and their learning and the classrooms and what's going on there. And in that topic, we left it broad, but we did narrow in on one thing, and that was the academic experience and successes and room for improvements for our students. And so I prefer to keep it focused and the conversation in one space.
And I would agree with both Christine and Jenny in terms of keeping it as grow as learners. I think that as a respondent and the attendee at a town hall, if a parent or a student or a teacher wanted to talk about the students as citizens, they could certainly add their comments, but I think that it changes the intent of where our discussion was as a board in terms of what we're looking to garner information on. I'll just look to see if Christina or Tyler have any further comments. Hi, are you, Christina and Tyler, are you guys okay with leaving it as it is in the board package? Okay. So we will leave them then and we'll carry on with that. One important thing to note is that as a board, we really did want to ensure that these questions came out at this time so that we had them early enough in the year so that as trustees and as a division that we could be encouraging families and students and staff to be coming to our town hall and really making a concerted effort to engage them at this point and have those opportunities over the next little bit when we're meeting with people to talk about it and to let them know about these questions. There will be process piece that's going to happen at the community engagement committee meeting, and so we'll watch for more information, but this is our opportunity as trustees to really share and engage our community to let them know about town hall and encourage them for their participation and let them know that the questions that are going to be coming forward. So I appreciate the work that has gone into getting to this point and that we are ahead of the game this year with our town hall questions. So thank you. So with that, I will move on to the school board annual work plan, which is 8.2 because we are jumping around a bit or getting back to where we were. And Cheryl, did you want to comment?
The school board annual work plan is developed by putting down the primary work target dates for provincial requirements such as your education plan, your assurance results report, audited financial statements, and so forth, as well as some traditional dates in that have been board responsibilities in Lethbridge School Division, whether that be the 5125 club celebration or other events. As well, it's based on some organizational meetings or meetings where you represent the school division. And finally, it was developed, included all of the goals or target dates that you established when we had our session collectively last month to take a look at the board's annual plan. And so those, when you came and you had the calendars and you worked in groups and then partnerships and then posted on the calendar, that was reviewed by the chair, vice chair, and then inserted into the school board annual work plan. So if there's any questions, feel free to ask.
Kristen, can you go to full screen? And just while she's doing that, there's one thing that I see on some of the months that we have ASBA Zone 6 general meeting, and that should be on every month, the ASBA Zone 6 general meeting, and it's missing from a couple of months. So if we can just make sure that that is on every month. Yes.
Actually, that was the question I was going to ask. So because there's many meetings the board has, whether it's ASBA Zone 6 or whether it's the City of Lethbridge School Board meeting, whether it's, whether or not meetings should come off of here, because we might be adding 10 spaces there for meetings.
Yes.
So
I'm fine if it
because
comes
those were
off.
traditionally on there, I left them, but I thought maybe we should be taking meeting dates off. Is that
Yeah, no,
make
I'm
sense?
totally fine if it comes off of there. And that is just something that as trustees. we
Whereas
will-
a conference I thought would go on there, but maybe
Yes.
meetings will take off.
Yeah, so yeah, if we can take off those Zone 6 meetings from the
Perfect.
ones that they're on, that's.
It's
that works.
confusing otherwise. You're
Yes,
right, 'cause it's
yeah.
there somewhere,
Yeah. Perfect. Craig, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just wondering, in March, it says School Board Committee of the Whole, but it doesn't say whether that's the retreat or not. Is that the retreat in March?
The retreat is strategic planning, Craig.
Oh, okay, I see it now.
Not seeing any other comments. We do need approval of the annual board work plan. So just looking for an approval of the Christine, and any further discussion? And those in favor? And Tyler, if you can just turn your camera on. Perfect, and that is carried. Thank you. Moving on, our next item is the electricity contract.
Thank you. Kristen, can you put up that, share that document for me? So back in March of 2021, we executed a 5-year electricity contract starting July 1st, 2022 to go to December 1st, 2026. And at a rate of 55.45 per megawatt per hour. And we did that working with a consultant called Energy Associates International. And yeah, thank you, Kristen, for going to this page. And as you can see, if you look at the little chart there, electricity rates have, of course, gone berserk, given geopolitical matters, natural gas, cogeneration, all that other good stuff. And so you can see, for instance, right now that the wholesale market in October is about 173 per megawatt hour. We're and if you're on a load shape, which is a little different, with basically buying it on the spot, is 55. And we have 55.45. You can see the cost, what we call cost avoidance. It's not savings because it's cost avoidance. We would have been paying that much more for electricity, and you can see over the 5-year agreement, 5-year term, as it sits now, looking into the future, we're currently having cost avoidance of $2 million. So, a very smart move to have locked in those rates. And in fact, that rate was slightly lower than what we were getting before. So, so that's a good thing. Now, if only we could keep the other charges off our bills down, that would help our budget. But given that, it was the recommendation of our consultant to take a look at going out a little further, so getting another further 2 years on a fixed contract, given where they think rates are going to go. So Kristen, can you go next page? Yeah. So what we did is they created an RFP for us, and we sent out an RFP, went out and came back on Friday, and we had 4 respondents that responded, or the major players that responded. And what we do, the process usually is we go for an RFP. They give us kind of where they're going to be for the price of the commodity, for whether they're, you know, what is the over under on your what they call the load factor. So if you're over, you know, you usually say, well, this is what our usage is roughly in a year, and if there's plus minus so many percentages, then you go back onto the spot market. And how does that work? And so we looked at all those things, and then once we get that, that's what comes back. It's called indicative pricing. So we get indicative pricing to have a sense of where are they thinking they would roughly land in a firm bid. And then why we're here today is I'm going to talk about where we sort of landed in on the indicative pricing. And I guess it's proprietary, so I couldn't give you the actual data specifically, but I can talk in generalities to where it landed. And then if you approve us to go to firm bid, our consultants go out for firm bid. We get a firm bid by all 4 who actually submitted back on the RFP. And then the one we have the best price, we have about an hour to sign a contract because it's a commodity. And as you can appreciate, commodities fluctuate up and down. So just to give you another indication here, this other chart again talks about those megawatt hour rates over our contract. They're looking out in the future, might be about $68 going forward at this point. And I can tell you, I got this chart in June and it was $63. And so it keeps going up every time I get a new rate. So they are projecting forward between 70 to 72 on the mid-market rates going forward. You can see natural gas. Natural gas took a big jump, and it jumped all over the place this year, and you will see that at year end in our financial statements. We locked in January at a 70-30 at $2.61 in natural gas, which was a good thing to do given the volatility that we've seen this year in natural gas. So right now we're at about a 1.1 million of a cost avoidance there and that contract. That's just a little aside from where we are today. However, because there's the move with decarbonization, there's the move for with natural gas. Natural gas prices does affect the price of energy. It's recommended that we look at locking in because right now they're thinking it's between $70 to $72 per megawatt hour that we're looking at right now into the future, and it could go higher. And so when we did the indicative pricing, it came in anywhere from a high of $80 per megawatt to about $73 per megawatt. And our consultants are suggesting that we look to do approval to go to firm bid at no greater than $78.50 per megawatt hour. I'm hoping it comes in closer to the 73 to 75, which I've just seen for the indicative pricing. What that means is it's about $17 to $19 per megawatt higher than what we're paying now in our 5-year contract. So that would have a cost increase of about $200,000 a year on our budget in 27-28 school years. And so that's it's a bit of a gamble, but I think prices are going to continue to escalate given the geopolitical event. And if you've seen what's going on in Europe, I think it's a risk we're taking, particularly given the savings cost avoidance that we're enjoying right now. So what I am seeking from you today is an approval can you just maybe move to the motion, because I had to change the motion for you because I had the wrong motion, that you approve administration to go to firm bid. Oh, firm bod. Did I? Okay. All right. Well, I guess I was in a mood, wasn't I? The firm bid and sign an electricity supply contract with a supplier with the best terms. Oh my goodness, my spelling is bad. For the period January 1st, 2027 to December 31st, 2028 at a price of no greater than $78.50 per megawatt hour. So any questions on that? Okay,
those online, are you able to see the motion that is there? Okay, Craig, go ahead. Okay, Craig, go ahead.
Just wondering on that contract, if the price of if the price of electricity drops quite a bit, then we're still stuck at that higher rate? Or is there a way to renegotiate down to a lower rate in those extra two?
Well, it depends on what supplier you're with, right? We'd be signing a new contract. If it's a current supplier, of course, they would always offer you a blend and extend, but given the pricing we're getting, we would never do a blend and extend because it wouldn't be to our advantage because it would be a higher rate. But I don't know. I'd have to ask our, I think once you're signed in, you're signed in. I don't know if there is an out clause, and because again, we're hedging, right? We're hedging our bets.
Any other questions or comments? Christine, would somebody like to make a motion? Okay. Tyler, you have a question?
Or a comment. I you know, this is something that obviously none of us follow on a day-to-day basis. So for us to really make a decision about it without having to go do research or whatever, I don't know that we're qualified to do that. What I would say is I don't know if it makes a big difference now if we lock in for a year in 2027, given the contract that we have now. I think you're 50-50 that we're going to end up in a recession here anyway. And if we do, the price is probably going to fall at some point between now and 2027 where you could lock in. But again, that's not, you know, that's certainly not my realm of expertise is predicting commodity prices. So that being said, if this is what Christine has done and has been with consultants who apparently know what they're doing and this is their suggestion, then I don't have any problem moving forward with it. I just don't know. I don't know how big of a deal it is to lock up 1 year, 4 years from now. But I'm fine with going ahead and doing it if that's the case.
Craig, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to make the motion. I agree with Tyler though in the fact that it's 5 years from now. And yeah, if we go into a recession, things could drop. But again, we have to rely on the expertise of this firm that works with the Energy Associates International. And we don't know what's going to happen. Absolutely, as Christine said, the geopolitical thing, all of that, plus even in our own province, an election coming up. So if they think this is a smart move, then I would make the motion to the board approve administration to sign electrical, well, whatever she has written up there, because it's different than what's in our package. January 1st, 2027 to December 31st, 2028 at a price of no greater than 78.50 megawatts per hour.
And just looking for any further discussion. I think for me, it's really about that you have done the background work for us and provided us with the information. I am no expert in electricity supply, so I do look to you for that expertise. So.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is a risk because we're going out a number of years. But as you can see, that the work that Energy Associates has done with us gave us great advice on locking in those rates when we did before, because they could see some changes coming. And so I'm glad that that's going to work out for us for the next 5 years. And yeah, it's a bit of a gamble, but I think given where we've seen the world going with electricity prices and natural gas, that this is a good way to go.
Okay. So seeing no further comments or questions, those in favor? And that's carried. And Kristen, I'm just wondering, knowing that this isn't in our packages, that motion, could you email it to us? Otherwise, we're waiting till the minutes for our end of November. So thank you. Next on our agenda is early retirement. And I believe Mike is going to start us on this one.
Yeah, as you well know, for the past several years, the board has had a voluntary retirement opportunity for members of the Alberta Teachers Association Retirement Fund and Canadian Union of Public Employees and non-union employees as well. So they would be part of the local authorities pension plan, LAP. Just very quickly, as I believe you know, folks can retire at the end of January and then get a contract from February 1st, 2023 to June 29th, 2023. And the process is pretty straightforward. They have to notify us in writing. And if the opportunity is available, then essentially we go through the process of allowing them to retire and then giving them that next contract till the end of the year. So are there any questions on the process, or I think it's clear in there, but I don't know.
And
that
as
we
a
need to-
board, we did go through this last year and
Yeah,
had a
pretty
discussion,
extensive.
but we certainly welcome more questions in regards to the process.
One thing I can add really quick, just to give you a little bit of history. So going back to 2017-18 and 27-18, we had 8 ATA members, 2 2843 members for a total of 10 take advantage of this opportunity. In 18-19, we had 7 ATA members, 1 2843 for a total of 8. In 2019-2022, we had 7 ATA members, 1 QP 290 and 1 non-union for a total of 9. In 2020-2021, we had 3 ATA members and 1 QP 290 take advantage of the opportunity for a total of 4. Last year, we had 2 ATA members, 1 QP 2843 and 1 non-union member for a total of 4, just so you know the numbers.
I am not seeing any discussion or questions. So in front of us, we do have 2 potential motions. One is that we extend the volunteer retirement opportunity, and the other is that we do not. So just looking for somebody to make the motion. Craig.
I move that the board extend the voluntary retirement opportunity to employees who qualify to collect a pension and are members of the Alberta Teachers Retirement Fund or local authorities pension plan, QP 290, QP 2843, and non-union employees. Employees intending to access this opportunity will be required to notify the division in writing per the process outlined by the division and submit a letter of retirement effective January 31st, 2023. These employees will be offered a temporary contract effective February 1st, 2023 to June 29th, 2023, or the end date as per the appropriate employee calendar.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Jenny? And that's carried. Thank you. So next we have health and mental health supports in Lethbridge, and I'm going to actually ask Morag to, are you familiar with this one? No? So, okay. Okay. So Andrea, should we be?
She just put it in sort of independently on her own. She can't speak to it, but you might.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that we will table it. Christine, you're good? Okay, so we will table this to our next meeting for November. And the memo is here. So Kristen, if you can just make sure that it gets forwarded to our next meeting, that would be great. And this gives us an opportunity as trustees to put some thought into the request that's here in regards to looking at the role that we play as a board in terms of advocacy for mental health and mental health supports in Lethbridge. So we have that opportunity to put some thought into this and come back with some ideas. And Andrea will be with us at our November meeting. So, yep.
I just do really want to commend my colleagues who work alongside in Alberta Health Services and the dedication that they are investing into doing their best. I had just a conversation the other day with Paul Weiss from Addictions Mental Health, Thomas Mountain, Colin Zieber. They're all amazing and really doing their best to be as resourceful and as collaborative as they possibly can. And I really am mindful of those relations, and Crystal Van Ray too, really mindful of those local relationships and wanting them to understand and appreciate that our advocacy is not making a commentary on any of the dedication that they have invested in the work and our kids and families. And I wanted to go on record to say that. Okay.
Thank you for those comments. So with that, we'll move into division highlights. So again, this is an opportunity for you to share a couple of things from the past month as a trustee of what you would like to highlight in the division. Can you just switch to Jenny? Are you putting your hand up? Nope. I can start with Christina if you're ready for division highlights. Okay.
It was great this month to join the Pancake Breakfast at Victoria Park. So lovely to see student engagement in their community, and just a very lovely event. And just as a sort of division rep this month, and it's in my report for the poverty intervention as well, but had a chance to advocate on behalf of the division for around child poverty and the continued prevalence of that. And so I just wanted to shout out to all of the schools and staff and all of the many parents and volunteers and community partners who tackle poverty and resource access in all of our schools all the time. It's just been really fascinating this month to learn more about what that looks like in our schools. So shout out to everyone doing that hard work.
Thank you, Christina. And Christine, are you ready? Okay.
Yes. I was able to attend the Introduction to Trades evening at Lethbridge College, and there was a fantastic turnout. And it's just really exciting to see the turnover of interest, the increase of interest, awareness of the value of trades. And so I know they're in their process of selecting students who are going to be part of that dual credit from Zone 6, which is Southern Alberta, 6 school divisions. So good luck to all the students who have put in their applications for that. And I just want to say thank you to Joel Tailfeathers, Jenna, oh, sorry, I have to put my glasses on. Jenna Bruised Head, Shawnee Big Bull, and Melanie Morrow, just for leading our division in our Pathways to Reconciliation. I was able to attend here at the division, and they did such a phenomenal job of inviting us into an experience of reflection and growing and understanding. And one thing something new always stands out to me every year. And I think this year, what really stood out to me is the emotional sacrifice and cost it takes our Indigenous leaders to lead us in this process. And and so I was very grateful and thankful for their willingness to sacrifice that piece of their heart for our understanding. It's a very generous and selfless thing. And so I'm thankful for that. And at one of my school council meetings, we were able to highlight the multicultural and diversity calendar as the school was planning their holiday celebrations and cookies and fundraisers. And so we were able to guide back to that document and just talking around the question, how do we make our holiday celebrations more inclusive for our school communities?
Excellent. Thanks for sharing, Christine. So it is 5:01, so we are going to take a quick pause from our division highlights and check for public forum. So at this time, we invite our public if they have anything to address the board in regards to. And is there anybody online, Garrett or Kristen? Yep. Sounds good. And there's nobody online? Okay, sounds good. So with that, we'll continue on with our division highlights. And Craig, do you have your division highlights to do?
Yeah, I went to the Indigenous reconciliation thing at the school board both times. Thought it was well done and quite thought-provoking. I did attend the public school board's annual general meeting, of which I will talk about more later. I will admit that I won 3 books, which I'm going to give one to each of my schools. And I got to shake the hand of the lieutenant governor and got a picture taken with her. I've just got to get that sent to me. But that's about all, because I'm down in Santa Fe and going to Sedona next. So I'll be back in November for all the other meetings.
And Jenny.
I just wanted to highlight a couple of things going on at my schools. Chinook High School has a production of Mamma Mia coming up next month, so there's a plug for that for anyone that is looking to clear their calendar for one of those days. And then I thought something else neat that I don't know if it's offered in other schools, but I learned about it from Nicholas Sharon. I got to look up the name of it so I don't get it wrong, but it's a program they do in conjunction with the university, and the student teachers at the U of L offer tutoring to students in elementary schools. And I wasn't aware of this, but I think it's such a great program and so neat to see our schools collaborating with resources and with our university and with the community. And so they offer, they call it the EUS program, and they offer tutoring to students on any subject from grades K to 12. And so I just wanted to highlight that because I think that's such a neat outreach from the U of L, and neat for our schools to be accessing whatever resources are being offered to our students.
Excellent, thank you. And Tyler.
Okay, I think Morag mentioned it earlier, but I went to some high school as well as some middle school volleyball last week, which was phenomenal. It's just so nice to see school sports. Like it's just amazing what those do for certain students to be able to have that outlet, to be able to do things. So that was nice. And then one of my parent councils over at Patterson, I ended up there about 30 minutes early, which Allison and the rest of the parent council actually did invite me to book club, but I sadly declined to join book club there. But in the meantime, I wandered around the school because I went there a million years ago. So I just wandered around the school to see it and everything. And I just wanted to just shout out to the caretaking staff and to all of the facilities people, because I got to tell you that building was not new when I went there, and it looks phenomenal. You would never know how old that building is. I mean, bathrooms, completely spotless, floors, paint, everything. That building is in immaculate condition. So I just wanted to say thanks to all our caretaking staff and everyone in the facilities who keep our schools in tip-top shape.
Thank you, Tyler. Your appreciation is much appreciated. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And I'll just finish off with mine. So the last week of September, just having the opportunities to engage with schools and see the work that they were doing, our Indigenous committee, the work they're doing with them with the Pathways to Reconciliation, and just to see on September 29th all the different avenues and projects and ways that our schools decided to engage students was amazing and phenomenal. And just to explore our website and our Facebook page that shared so many different school opportunities that our students were able to partake in. So that was fabulous. And then just in getting to go to school council meetings, the parent participation, obviously at the beginning of the year, we always see high numbers, but it's been great throughout October to see those numbers continue. So keep encouraging parents and community to continue to coming out to those school council meetings. And it was great to have our tech team here and talking about esports, and just a huge shout out to the esports event that happened this last weekend at our esports center at LCI with the Super Smash Brothers. It sold out within a number of days, and it was a great success. And I think we're going to see more, and we see our middle schools participating, and then just to hear amongst the divisions in our zone of wanting to learn more. So it really is great. And then I wanted to give a shout out to Christina Larkin for representing our division and the work that is being done when we look at the Lethbridge Child and Family Poverty Report. And she was able to present the work that our division is doing and looking at the report in terms of how that will impact our division and the important work that we have going ahead in regards to the poverty report. So thank you for that, Christina. And then just in ending, in regards to the busing, so over the last month, we've seen some adjustments to the busing schedules, and some of those are those minor tweaks that are just getting kids to school on time with those little small tweaks. And just a shout out to Southland and our busing coordinators for ensuring that those tweaks are happening so that our students are getting to school on time, and hearing positive comments from parents in regards to that. So thank you. Right. And the improvements are noticeable. So thank you. Even though they're literally like a 3-minute or a 4-minute change, but it's just to see the difference in, hearing at school council meetings that I'm not getting those notifications all the time that the bus is late, right? So it's been much more positive, and it's fabulous. So thank you. Perfect. So moving on from there, we'll move on to the board chair report. And the first one is the community conversations. I need to flip it. I'm used to having it online, so it's like I'm having trouble following along. So community conversations, so the memo is there with our dates. So we had our first community conversation for this year on October 13th, and the dates are there for our next ones. So November 8th is a daytime one from 10 to 11:30, and it is at the Fish and Game Clubhouse on the south side. And then December 8th is after school one from 4 to 5:30 at the YMCA. And there is space there. I believe it's going to be in a gym area, or an area that kids will be able to play if they are coming with their parents, or the students can speak to us as trustees as well. And then January 26th is an evening one at the BGC Youth Center on the north side. So those are some opportunities as the public, whether you're parents, staff, students, or community that want to come out and speak to trustees. Those opportunities are available to you. Are there any questions, comments? Right. Seeing none, we'll move on to Craig with the Public School Boards Association of Alberta AGM. Craig?
It was a wonderful event. Had a great time, especially listening to our Lieutenant Governor of Alberta. She's the first Muslim to hold that position in Alberta. And her story of being evicted basically from her homeland in Uganda under Idi Amin and arriving in Alberta without belonging to a country was an interesting story. She did not have a passport, and all she got was a travel document from the British government saying they were allowing her to come in, but she had no rights or privileges. So to hear her story and her acceptance in Alberta was really good. And then they had a bunch of draws, of which I won, and I can give each of my schools, Galbraith, Westminster, and Senator Joyce Fairburn, a book each. The highlight to me was the all-day evaluation or professional development on Thursday. done by two people, David Feldman and Gemma Dunn. And it was timely as we are looking at our mission and vision. And the unfortunate thing is I got home on the 14th of October late from this meeting and left Friday morning or Saturday morning for the States. So I have not been able to, but I will take a photograph of the handout that they gave us, which I think would be excellent for us to be guided along with the stuff that Cheryl's provided. And I will text it, the pictures, to Allison, and she can share it with Jenny and Cheryl and then the rest of you. But it brought in some really good highlights about your vision and mission have to indicate your values, of which we've kind of talked about that today. Because I was the only one there from our division, I worked with trustees from Grand Yellowhead, and it was really a worthwhile opportunity to do that. And it was too bad that we didn't have the rest of us there, because it would have helped, it would have put us further along in our mission and vision quest because of some of the questions he asked and some of the things we had to do. So I'll photograph it and send it up, and then hopefully for our November Committee of the Whole, they can share that document with you. The other great thing is that they got it from Canadian Geographic. This map probably weighs about 80 or 90 pounds, and it is huge. It covered most of a ballroom, and you can go on there and they have every Indigenous group in Canada listed and organized where they were without any boundaries. So there's no provincial, no state boundaries. And so you have to try to look and see where you kind of fit in on that. The other thing that I'd like to share is that the ATA has a number of good opportunities to use their materials on Indigenous people. And the public school boards has, and if you go on, if you use the password and go on, it doesn't cost us a thing, but they have courses on Indigenous learning that we can take and are free to us. And the people that have taken it and are taking it say it is wonderful, and it's helping them get a better viewpoint of for us about Indigenous people. And then Friday we had our annual meeting, and we passed the audited report and the budget with the fee schedule. When I get back from the States, I'll talk about what really was good to me is how often boards came up and just talked about how glad they are that we're a part of them. And it's really interesting, the friendship that was cultivated, the collaboration that was cultivated, and how we can, as a group of people within the public schools, make impact out of not being part of ASBA, but being part of just public schools. And so I was really, really excited about that. And I do have some of their meetings, like I'll be up in Edmonton in November, just before the ASBA for another PD and council meeting. And so, no, wonderful, wonderful time. Thoroughly enjoyed it and learned a lot.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Craig? Seeing none, we'll move on to our reports. So the first one is the Wellness Committee. The report is in your package. It is quite thorough report. So just looking if there's any questions. Seeing none, we'll move on to the Joint City School Board report, and that's Christine.
Thanks, Allison. The report is before you, so I'm not going to read through it, but what I do want to add, Allison noted this to me before the meeting, so I'm glad she did. Just under the city transit fee structure and routing strategies, I would just like to add the information that a committee is being formed for fee structure. So that's happening currently or will be happening in the near future. And the review of the fare system, I can't read my writing, was in May. My apologies. Thank you. The review of the fare system was in May, and the city will be in touch mid-January regarding fare structure with the school division. And so if there's any other questions, I would be glad to answer them.
Are there any questions?
Need to work on this committee. I think just wanted to, we don't really like listed in our meeting notes from the Poverty Intervention Committee, but transportation continues to come up constantly from that committee. And I know Christine is on that as well, but so I just wanted to appreciate that it is a continued topic of conversation from the board.
And I think it's important to note too that we requested for it to be on the agenda for this past meeting and had some great discussion on it. And then we asked for it to remain on the following agendas so that it's not an agenda item that has come and we've addressed it and then we're done. It is a continued conversation, and we are not going to just sit down and wait to see what happens. We're going to keep the conversation going, and it'll be on all of our agendas going forward until we get some more clarity and some more resolve. So seeing no more comments or questions, we'll move on to Facilities Committee. And okay, and that is from Christine.
It is from me. Thank you. That's okay. Well, the facility, we had a great meeting. Good things are happening with our facilities crew, and they are prepping for the new elementary school on the west side, dreaming and making dreams happen for the Victoria Park upgrade. And of course, we heard about the modular classrooms earlier. So the report is before you. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them for you as best as I can.
Are there any questions? Kristen, can you just quickly go to the... Not seeing any questions. Excellent. So we will now move on to Division School Council meeting, and I believe that's Jenny.
So my apologies that these both say they are oral reports. I actually had typed up things, but forgot to send them. And Kristen called me when I was on the road. So because I wasn't going to be able to send them for several hours, I just asked her to send it this way so that she didn't have to wait to send this out. So my apologies to Kristen and to everyone. But for District School Council, we started with a really informative presentation AHS provided for us on healthy hot lunch options and strategies. And they did a very good job and were generous with their time and with their information. And we had a meaningful discussion with the parents in the room afterward. And so we appreciated that opportunity. Elections were held, it being the first meeting of the year. And we have Shelley Roost. Shelley Roost. Sorry, Shelley. We have Shelley Roost acting as our chairperson again for that committee. And I have to double check my notes for vice chair.
Carrie Boschman.
Carrie Boschman. Thank you. Thank you. And then we had appointments to our different subcommittees in there as well. And all of those are in the notes, in the minutes of the meeting, if anyone is interested in looking into those details. We had a presentation from the ATA as well, inviting us to attend a rally that was held up at Parliament on the 22nd, I believe it was held just a few days ago. Just rallying for awareness with our political leaders around education and the concerns around education. And so a bus was provided for those that wanted to attend from here, and participation was encouraged for that. And then we had an opportunity to hear from our superintendent, provided her report. I was able to provide a trustee report, and we were able to propose a discussion point question that we've tabled for next month about what our parents love about their schools that involves them as parents. And so we look forward to that discussion for next month.
Excellent. Are there any questions for Jenny? Seeing none, we'll move on to Policy Review Committee, and it's Jenny again.
So this one, maybe I should email out just for point of reference afterward what I had typed up. I probably should, because you might want to go back and look at it. So we were able to meet as a committee, which is Cheryl, Allison, and Craig and myself. And we were able to discuss some of what we learned in our committee of the whole and our presentation, and to talk about how we can move forward in working with our policies, and what we recognized as a really valuable question and method for moving forward is to look at our policies and to kind of ask ourselves, when was the last time we used this? How does it apply? And so the idea and strategy we've come up with is to do a preliminary overview of the policies that we have, and to become familiar with what is there, and to try to organize ourselves a little bit around that, and to recognize what is relevant, what is a policy, what is a procedure, and to become just that first step overview, preliminary sweep of the policies, and just to get familiar. And so we thought the most appropriate way to break that down is for the trustees to go through the 100s and the 200s, because those are the policies that pertain to us as a board. And then we've broken it down, and this is where I can email out the details, but for each of the policies, we've broken it down to who will go over in our process for going over each of those policies, so that we cover all of them. So I'll email out that information in more detail. And then with that, we recognize that as our preliminary step in organizing that, and then in reviewing those. And then with the intention of moving forward into a step where we then are beginning to use exploration and looking at these, and to ask ourselves, when have we used these, and explore further how we would use them in the future, and the idea of using hypothetical situations and saying, if this is the situation, what policy would we refer to, and how would we use it? And so the practical use of actual policy, and to recognize gaps, and to recognize repetition, and to try to streamline what's there. We did talk about, Cheryl, are you able to provide us still that list of all the different policies that you had typed up, and you were going to remove your highlights?
I haven't put that together yet, but but that'll be provided. We'll reorganize the way that the policy, so that it's easier for us to do that preliminary
sweep. We're still
Sweep.
coming up with branding.
culling, the preliminary culling of the policies, and as Jenny suggested, we did as a subcommittee sort of outline who might do that preliminary culling, which doesn't mean that the policies in culling are being redone. What it means is those groups that would be most informed, or have sort of the lens or perspective that would understand whether their policies or procedures would look at each of those areas and do that culling. And so hopefully I should have that list of, I still haven't designated someone to do that, so we'll get that list. It shouldn't take long, but we will get that list out to trustees so that they have a sort of an understanding of the policies, procedures, appendix, attachments, and so forth.
Perfect. So just to consolidate what I said here, step one, we're going to organize the policies. Step two, we're going to do this preliminary culling, sweeping, just overview of these policies. And then step three, we're going to get more in depth in our exploration of them, and ask ourselves about practical use of these policies. And so the intention behind this is to clean up a little bit and make approachable what's there. And so hopefully this will help us in developing where we're going and recognizing what we have.
Thanks for summarizing that at the end. And if I can just add in regards to that step three, the question and that exploration piece is that as a board, we had some questions posed to us from our presenter. And during that phase three, we're going to be looking at, and potentially not all of the questions, but we're going to decide which of those questions we're going to explore more. So we'll spend some time in that third phase to explore those questions that were posed to us.
I'll email that out following this meeting. So I apologize, I didn't send it before.
Thank you, Jenny. Are there any questions? Christina?
So for clarity, we were waiting to hear about the policy advisory committee dates after this. So will those be set now?
Yes, so the Policy Advisory Committee is going to carry forward. We do have a bit of work that the Policy Advisory Committee is going to do, and just really when we're looking at policies, looking at them from that lens of have we used this policy, in what way have we used this policy, as well as looking at some work for the Policy Committee, Advisory Committee to look at potential scenarios, or if that you were presented with this, where would you go in the policies, just to really explore the piece of, are these policies are easy to find, or they're duplicates, are there spots? So it's not to change the policies, but just to really explore the process in looking at what policies are there and what advice can be given in terms of what needs to be changed. And the next meeting is November 9th for Policy Advisory Committee. And all of the participants have been advised of the meeting invite for that. So, any other questions, Christine?
For some policies, they're legally required, or for OHS&S. So I'm just wondering, will the information for those specific policies be given prior to board members going through them? Like, will we have that lens, or will it be after?
That is something we talked about. And so that is, the intention was to cover that during step 1 when we're organizing them. It'll be indicated to us which ones hold legal requirement. That's a really good point. I should have addressed that, but we did acknowledge that. And so it's a big step, that first step, organizing these. And that's part of that.
So we are pleased to have some direction of where we're going with the next steps with policy, and kind of those next 3 steps really, and see where we get to, and then reorganize and figure out where we're going. So excellent. Thanks for all that work that went into that. Seeing no further questions, we'll move on to our next committee report, which is Poverty Intervention Committee, and that's Christina Larkin.
And just out of respect for the schedule, it's there, you have it. I've mentioned the child poverty report a number of times today, so I do encourage you to check it out. It is all very local information developed with Shenla and the City of Lethbridge and United Way. So I encourage you to check that out, and we look forward to our next meeting where we're going to talk a little bit about direction of poverty intervention in the division and some strategy there.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions for Christina? Seeing none, and the next is Economic Development Lethbridge. So the meeting for Economic Development Lethbridge was last Wednesday, so I didn't have a chance to do a written report. So a couple of highlights from that. And we participate in Team Lethbridge. So Team Lethbridge, my understanding is the dates were adjusted to December, but Team Lethbridge is still carrying on with that event, heading up to the legislature and doing lots of great work. So thank you to those from our division that are heading up to do that. And then another key point that I wanted to bring up was they did a report and talked with us in regards to job vacancies. And it's really interesting to note the change in vacancies within our region. And this covers all the way from, like, it covers Lethbridge and Medicine Hat area. And to note is that in the last 2 years, the job vacancy rate went from, it doubled. So we were at approximately 1,500 2 years ago to 3,000 job vacancies. So it is an incredible gap. And just the work that EDL is doing is so important, and so important for that collaboration together with our school division, with our education community, including our university and our college as well. And just looking at the important work that they're doing, some of the things that they're looking at are, they have proposals. One of them is going forward with the automation and manufacturing workforce proposal. So looking at where a lot of jobs are going to be moving to that automation, and how do we ensure that that workforce still has employment. So it's really great for us as a school division to be engaged and understand what's happening within our community and the economic impacts, and how we as a division can play a role in that employment piece, and knowing that, you know, we have that, what was it called? The trades thing? Yeah, not the introduction to trades, but the day where they meet up with businesses. I wrote it in my package. So having
Try a
those
trade.
things, try a trade. So that those 2 days of try a trade, like those things are so important, and just that connection with community. And at the end of our meeting today, our last item is the Chamber of Commerce letter and our membership, and just that as well, the importance of our membership within that business community is so important to the work that we do for our students. So are there any questions for me on economic development Lethbridge? Seeing none, we'll move on to the audit committee, and trying to think, who is that? Okay, go ahead, Craig. Go ahead, Craig.
Well, first of all, on the Team Lethbridge, since they're not going up in November, but December, then I'm available. So I don't know if that affects anything, but I am on Team Lethbridge. And I wouldn't be able to go on November, but I am able to go in December. So just passing that on. The audit report is there as listed with the committee members. And the only thing I want to highlight is number 5, which is the risk management matrix, which is something new. And we're going to look at it at the audit committee member on November 21st, and then we'll submit it to the board for approval at a later date. I'm still learning about it, so if Christine would just like to give a brief note about what that really indicates, then the board can wait in great anticipation for that.
Thanks for, that's like, you're making it sound really exciting. That's great. Thanks, Craig. So yeah, so what we've done this year is we've done what we call a risk management matrix, and the leadership team worked very hard on this and sat down and said, in each of our areas, what are the risks to achieving our strategic goals? So quite often we talk about risk, we talk about insurance risk, we talk about financial risks. Those are quite common to us. But what is the risks? What are risks to, for instance, HR risks, for instance, for not having enough people to fill subs, for instance, there's a risk. So then what do we do to mitigate that risk? What is the risk to our reputation if something happens? So there's reputational risks. So we outlined there's risks to, for instance, new curriculum, you know, if we don't handle that appropriate. So we sat down and each of the areas, the experts in their areas sat down and went through and identified risks, looked at what is the likelihood of that risk and the impact if that happened. And then said, okay, now what do we have in place that helps mitigate that? And maybe thought of, oh, maybe we need to put something else in place. So we went through and did that risk management matrix. And so what we do is we bring that to the audit committee for a review. One, it's an accountability piece to say that we've done it, to look at it, and if they have any questions or concerns with it. It's not necessarily to judge how we've rated the risks, because that's subjective and it can change from, like Morag may have rated a risk yesterday at something and might change her mind that maybe that risk isn't as high or it might be lower depending, right? So it's very subjective. And so it's just to say, is there something maybe we didn't consider? Have we considered, and it's a very big document, as Craig can testify to. Our team did a really, really great job, I have to tell you, on considering a lot of the risks. And so I'm very proud of the work that they did. And then it's a living document. So once the board sees it, it'll be an in-camera document because there's items in there that would not be considered public, particularly for some of the risk mitigation measures. But you'll review it and say, yeah, this is good, it's for your information. And then what'll happen, like in January, February, the team will get another look at it, say, is there something we need to add? Is there something we need to change? Review it. And then again, we'll do it in August. So twice a year, it'll get a review, and each year comes with new risks. So we had still some risk from COVID on this one. It would have looked different a year ago. We would have had more risks related to COVID, for example. So anyways, yeah, that's a little bit about it. It's quite a big document, but I think a lot of good work went into it.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, just our last agenda item is in regards to that Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce and our membership. And with that membership, it does allow us as a board that if there are courses or events that the chamber is offering, we do get a discounted rate. So you can take a look at their website. There's a lot of resources that are available. And if you look at the package that has been provided, they do have some of their policies. One of them is in relation to dual credit opportunities in Alberta as one of their policies. So there is lots of connection between the chamber and education and the business community and our students. So it's great that we are continuing that membership. So thank you, Christine. Is there anything else before we end? So with that, I will.
Allison?
Yep.
Just on that Chamber of Commerce, they have, if you'd like to get more involved as a convener, champion, or catalyst, are those just voluntary positions? Or does it cost money to be involved with it?
I don't believe that they necessarily cost money, but they're programs. So you can take a look further at them. Like there's more details to each of them, and you can find that information on the website. Thanks. So with that, we're adjourning the meeting at 5:38. Those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.